Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Espero que estén bien. Yo estoy bien. Y bienvenidos a semana 8, creo, de cuarentena. No, no puedo contar ahora, está bien. Hemos estado aquí desde el principio de la historia. Pero está bien. Em, y también bienvenidos a la penúltima semana del material nuevo, ¿verdad? De este curso. Solamente vamos a hablar de un concepto gramatical esta semana. Vamos a hablar de dos conceptos gramaticales nuevos la semana que viene. Y eso es todo, ¿verdad? La última semana de clase, es decir, la semana del Día de los Caídos, ¿verdad? La semana de Memorial Day. Durante esa semana van a tener tiempo para completar el último examen del capítulo, o sea, el último examen del curso. Es un examen final, pero no se preocupen. Y eso, entonces, y creo que ese examen tendrá que entregarse el 31 de mayo. em, y eso, así que solamente tenemos 3 semanas más. Loco, 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 locura. Bueno, para empezar, esta semana vamos a hablar del tiempo futuro, ¿verdad? Y creo que esto es repaso para ustedes porque creo que ustedes ya me han dicho que vieron esto en español 3, pero vamos a ver. Y como siempre, cuando hablamos de conceptos gramaticales, vamos a hablar en un poco de español. Entonces, el futuro, ¿verdad? O the future is a new tense that, like I said, I think is review for you. I think Senora Bayshore talked to you about this in Spanish 3, but we'll find out. And it, of course, is a tense that talks about the future. So not what is happening now, nor what happened in the past, nor what would happen in some alternate universe, but rather what will happen at some time that is not now, but is in the future. So if we don't, like I said, we don't have notes. Obviously, we haven't had notes since COVID hit, but if there were like a timeline, you would have the past and the present, and of course this would go in the future. So the future tense uses the same endings for all AR, ER, and IR verbs. That is a happy thing, just not as much conjugation material to remember. And for regular verbs, you just tack these endings onto the infinitive. So as opposed to how in Spanish, the vast majority of verb tenses, you drop the AR, the ER, and IR, and you find your stem. So of course, like for hablar, drop the AR, and hablo, hablas, habla. For comer, como, comes, come. For vivir, vivo, vives, vive. You don't drop the ER, the AR, or the IR here. You just simply tack the ending onto the infinitive itself, onto the AR, ER, IR form of the verb. And you see these endings here. It's as, a, hemos, the one that we won't mention, and an, all with accents throughout, except for hemos for the nosotros form. So, for example, for an AR verb, it would be hablaré, hablarás, hablará, hablaremos, hablarán. For an ER verb like deber, deberé, deberás, deberá, deberemos, deberán. Or for an IR verb like abrir, abraré, sorry, abriré, abrirás, abrirá, abriremos, abrirán. And so, for example, hablaré would be I will speak. Deberé would be I should do, but like in the future, I will should do. No, that doesn't make much sense. You get the idea. Like I have an obligation, but I will have that obligation in the future. And abriré would be I will open. Now, surely you will remember, hopefully, that there is another way to talk about doing things in the future in the same way that there is in English, and that's using, let me see if I can find it, that's using this kind of construction here, this ir plus a plus infinitive piece. So, for example, instead of saying hablaré, you could say voy a hablar. And that's the difference in English between I will speak and I'm going to speak. Now, they're both identical, or that is, they're both interchangeable from a linguistic point of view or from like a temporal point of view. That is, if I say voy a hablar, that's the idea of I'm speaking, and when am I speaking? It'll be in the future. Um, hablaré, I'm still doing the speaking. When am I speaking? I'm doing it in the future. But the whole ir plus a plus infinitive thing, and then this new, but again, should be review future tense, they do differ pragmatically. And what I mean by that is, although in theory they mean that they can be used to express the same thing, one is more likely than the other. So like In the same way that in English, let's say that if I'm asking you like, hey, are you gonna come to the cap and gown distribution uh, event on May 28th, which I intend to be there. Maybe we got an email from Principal Miller saying, hey, maybe this will be the last time that you can see your seniors. I want everybody that can come to come, and I'm like, yep, I will be there. So at any rate, if I were to ask you, hey, are you going to go to the cap and gown distribution event on May 28th? You might say, I'm going to go. And that is just what naturally comes to your mind. You could also say, I shall go, which both mean the same thing, right? Like when that event happens, you'll be there, and that event is in the future. But just from a pragmatic standpoint, or from the way that people naturally use the language standpoint, one just like sounds more natural than the other. Again, if I were going to ask you, you'd probably say, yeah, I'm going to go, not I shall go. And similarly, if I were going to say, like, are you going to go, vas a ir al evento el 28 de mayo, probably you would say, voy a ir. You could say, of course, iré, but iré just sounds more formal, I guess I'll say. Of course, you can say it, it's legitimate Spanish, of course. But just in modern usage, you tend to hear the ir pasado plus infinitive construction in more context, or you'll hear it used more naturally, more frequently than you'll hear this future tense used. But again, you could use either. If I were to ask you, ¿vas a ir al evento? You could say, sí, voy a ir, or you could just say, iré. Voy a ir, you hear more common, but again, they're both perfectly acceptable. A couple of irregular verbs, and here is your list. I won't go through every single one of them, but you have things that look like caber, haber, poder, querer, and saber, which loses the er throughout and then just kind of ends in that r, and then you tack on those same endings of e, as, a, hemos, an. So, like for example, querer, instead of being quereré, which is weird to say, it just turns into querré or querrás or querremos. Same thing with poner, salir, tener, valer, venir. Pondré, saldré, tendré, valdré, vendré. And then same with decir, hacer, satisfacer. Diré, haré, satisfaré. And as we're talking about this, what's occurring to me is that all of these verbs, if I'm not mistaken, are also irregular go verbs in the present tense, right? So like poner es pongo, salir es salgo, tener es tengo, valer es valgo, venir es vengo. So surely it's just occurring to me as I'm talking right now, but surely there's some connection there that all these verbs have an infinitive, or excuse me, all these verbs have an irregular stem in the future, and they also have an irregular stem in the present tense yo form. And frankly, I believe that that is all that I have to say about the present tense. No, I'm sorry, I lied. No, it's not. So this comes directly from the book. The book goes into a little bit more detail that is just stuff that we all know anyway. But I do want to mention this kind of third bullet point. And it says this. It says, in Spanish, a future tense may be used to express conjecture or probability, even about present events. English expresses this sense in various ways, such as I wonder, or I bet, or I must, or that may, or that might, or that probably is. And I'll give you an example. So let's say that I'm just sitting watching TV downstairs, doing what I do, and somebody knocks on my door. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder who that might be. I could say, ¿Quién será? It literally translated, ¿Quién será? Is who will that be? Um, which I guess we don't really use will in that sense in English. But in English, you get the idea. It's this idea of like, who might that be? Or who may that be? Or who probably is that? It's just this kind of like conjecture piece where it's not necessarily referring to a specific future event. It's just more along the line, again, it's saying something like, oh, like who might that be? Or who will that be? But again, I don't think we use will. Who will that be? Who will that be? It doesn't sound, that sounds weird to me. Maybe it sounds okay to you. I don't know. I promise English is my first language. At any rate, I believe that is all that I have to say about the El Tiempo Futuro. As is always the case, si tú tienes alguna pregunta, no dudes de hacérmela. Puedes ponerte en contacto conmigo por correo electrónico o puedes verme en mi horario de oficina. O sea, sí, eso, ¿verdad? Horario de oficina en las reuniones de Zoom o en mi documento, mi Google Doc. Y creo que eso es todo y nos vemos. Espero que tengan una buena semana. Chao.